When you're running a D&D game, you're not likely to be using monsters that have boss-like features, like lair actions, legendary actions, and environmental effects, until your players are upwards of level 10. But anybody who's worked a crappy corporate job knows that even at very low levels, there's always a boss.
Slug, can you send in Mudguts? I thought I told him I needed those pillaging reports on my desk by 2 p.m. Right away, Goblin Boss. He's already been written up for this. I guess it's time to escalate.
Your players shouldn't have to wait until higher levels to have epic boss battles, and lairs are one of the ways you can make a boss fight exciting. For those who aren't familiar with lairs, lair actions basically make the environment into its own monster, with its own initiative, to back up the big bad. For example, an ancient red dragon can use lair actions like a geyser of magma, or poisonous volcanic gas. Not only do lair actions lend atmosphere and unpredictability to an encounter, but on a more practical level, they help balance out action economy, so that your boss can actually pose a threat. Regional effects do something similar, but they're constant. So instead of something happening regularly during initiative, a regional effect is more like how all low intelligence creatures within 6 miles of a kraken's lair fight to defend the kraken. Unfortunately, the monster manual doesn't really give you access to lairs when your party is at lower levels. A goblin boss doesn't have a lair, for example. But the good news is we don't have to rely on this thing. I'm gonna teach you the basics of how to create and use these kinds of features to make your boss battles epic. And for hands-on examples, we're gonna reference Home Field Advantage, a compendium of lair actions and regional effects for over 300 monsters from official D&D sourcebooks. That's because this video is sponsored by DM's Guild. DM's Guild is a community content program where creators can legally use official D&D material to create and share their own game content, from adventures and character options to monster collections and magic items. There are thousands of PDFs, all created by DMs like you to help improve your games and make your job easier. Make sure to use my code for a discount on your DM's Guild purchase, whether or not it includes Home Field Advantage. More info in the description. But just to be clear, the advice in this video does not require purchasing a book to implement. You can absolutely take the tips I'm about to share and use them without paying a dime. Okay, let's get to work.
Slug, call an all-hands meeting. It's time to take up the war chant. Again? I don't need your attitude right now, Slug. I need boots on the ground. I need every single goblin giving 110%. What's a percent?
Imagine that your level 2 party has been fighting some small groups of goblins, and now they're about to face off with the goblin boss. By this point, they've killed goblins, and they know that they're not really a huge threat. They track the goblins back to their lair and find themselves face to face with the boss and her goblin minions. In the first round of combat, the players take out 1 or 2 of the goblins and are feeling pretty good about themselves. But then the lair action hits. The goblin boss starts pounding her spear on the stone, and a harsh chant echoes against the cavern walls. The goblins are banging their weapons to join the clamor, shrieking and cackling. You call for the cleric to make a concentration check, as the cacophony makes it more and more difficult to focus on holding bless. You tell the party that the goblins seem empowered by this chant, like being connected with their fellows has made them somehow stronger. This particular lair action comes from the goblin boss section of Home Field Advantage. Any creature within 5 feet of a goblin when the war chant begins has to make a save for any spells they're concentrating on, and all the goblins have advantage on their next check, attack, or save. This is a perfect example of the first rule of great lairs. They should complement your monster's strengths, or counter their weaknesses. Here's the thing about goblins. They are individually weak, it's true, but that's why they gather in large groups. Even weak creatures can be deadly when there are enough of them. That's a key part of goblins as a monster. It's even written into the monster manual. This lair action highlights that strength and turns it into a mechanical benefit that the goblins only get because they're on their own turf with their own team. Home Field Advantage is full of great examples of this rule in action. For example, the Shadow Demon has light sensitivity, so the book has given it a lair action that allows it to create its own darkness. Nobles are often not very mechanically threatening. Their strength lies in their social power. To represent this, the book includes lair actions like nearby guards and servants being able to use their reaction to take damage on the noble's behalf. When coming up with your own lair actions and regional effects, think about what circumstances your monster or villain needs in order to maximize their abilities. How can you use their environment to create those circumstances?
Just received word from corporate. We've been instructed to skulk around. Can you pass that down? Oh man, but it's nearly quitting time. Don't I know it? Thank McGlubby and it's Friday, right?
The effects of the war chant have ended, and your party is slowly but surely picking goblins off where they can. But it's Lair action time again. The goblin boss gives a command in Goblin. Any players who speak it hear her yell, "Scatter!" The goblins bolt. Any that were visible attempt to hide, and if there were any that were already hiding, well, good luck finding them now. The scrape and clatter of footfalls fade into stealthy silence, and the cavern appears strangely empty. You pass the turn back to your players, who are suddenly low on enemies to attack, although they're probably looking like pretty good short bow targets right now. This Lair action is detailed in Home Field Advantage as an opportunity for goblins to immediately use their reactions to hide, or, if already hidden, take their movement. The goblin boss doesn't even have to use their reaction for this move. This is rule 2 of Lairs. Give players a problem to solve. On a basic level, the goal of most combat encounters is to kill all of the enemies. Since goblins are so individually weak, an encounter with a bunch of goblins mostly just involves picking them off one by one, or hitting a group of them with some sort of area of effect attack. But as per the first rule, we want the Lair actions to play to the goblins' strengths, and boy are they good at stealth. By giving the goblins extra opportunities to hide and sneak around, the objective for players stops being kill all the goblins and temporarily becomes locate the goblins. This breaks up the monotony that can come with an encounter where you just use the same damage dealing attacks round over round over round. It also challenges players to think creatively and problem solve. They're going to use different tactics and skills, and this might even allow different players their chance to shine. Home Field Advantage has other great examples of this rule in action too. For instance, the Green Hag has a Lair action where she can disguise herself as a nearby creature and then choose whether or not to magically swap places with it. That means players suddenly don't know which creature is the hag. Imagine that she uses it on a party member, and now the players have to figure out which is which so they don't accidentally attack their own ally. When you're picking a Lair action or regional effect, ask yourself, how does this affect the player's choices? Consider having at least one of your Lair actions present a new problem to be solved. That way you can keep players on the back foot during combat.
Boss, the new interns are here. Are they doing any kind of training? Training? Do they need training to be putrescent? I don't know, maybe. They could be stinkier. It's so hard to find good entry-level goblins these days. Nobody wants to raid anymore.
When the players first enter the lair, you describe a noxious smell. The goblins themselves look particularly foul, even for goblins. And then the first player hits one with a melee attack. You describe the goblin's blood splattering onto their attacker's face, weirdly sludgy and dark. You tell them that at first they think the blood is just hot, but then it starts to burn. There is something deeply wrong with this goblin. You call for a constitution save. If they fail it, they are poisoned by the toxins that these goblins somehow carry inside them. But that's not all. If anyone decides to brave that poisonous proximity long enough to kill a goblin from melee range, you call for a second, higher DC con save. If they fail that one, you get to take part in one of a dungeon master's greatest joys. You get to raise your eyebrows, make a note to yourself, and then say absolutely nothing else. Man, that really freaks him out. Then, in 1d4 days, you can start revealing the symptoms of sewer plague. This regional effect doesn't demonstrate Rule 3 on its own, but when paired with the first two examples, you can very clearly see that it is crucial to make sure all of your lair actions and regional effects accomplish different things. Lair actions and regional effects can do all kinds of stuff. They can inflict status conditions, like the effect that I just described. They can protect, heal, or strengthen your monsters. Or they can weaken, inconvenience, or damage your party. They can create obstacles, cause weather effects, or give monsters extra movement or attacks. You have pretty much infinite options with these features, so make sure they're not all doing the same things. If one of your lair actions deals damage, consider making the next one change the terrain or call for reinforcements. Not only does this keep the lair actions unpredictable, it also gives you options as a DM, so you can choose the effects that benefit your monsters tactically, based on how the encounter is going so far. And if you accidentally end up hitting your players harder than you originally intended, you have the ability to focus on non-damage dealing effects for a while, just to give them a chance to catch up. Of course, there's nothing more depressing than prepping for a big boss fight where you're really trying to scare the crap out of your players, and then they beat your bad guy senseless in the first round. Lair actions and regional effects can help strengthen your boss and give you more tools to threaten the party with. But it's also an essential DM skill to be able to adjust your monster tactics on the fly to ensure that your epic battles stay epic. Check out this video next to learn how to do that.
Let's circle back next week on the Q3 ravaging and looting schedule. Oh, and Slug, there was rotten carrion on my desk this morning. Happy birthday! You shouldn't have. Minion of the month right here.